Gaming's not a hobby. Gaming's a way of life, a drug, an addiction. And this is the extra content to keep you moving. This is your Day 2 update.
Hey guys! Good evening everyone, and welcome. And thank you for making the time tonight to come to church. But again, thank you. And as you can see from this evening, here again at PlayStation, we've decided to mix it up a little bit.
All right, everybody, welcome to Day 2 Update. You've heard us talk about Microsoft. Now we're going to talk about my personal favorite, the one out of the bunch. It's a Sony guy. We're going to talk about Sony's press conference from E3. Right off the bat, Mike was right there with me as Lincoln Sponge. We got Hulk and Yoda, a.k.a. Bo, a.k.a. Don, a.k.a. the man with so many names. So let's talk about it. I'm going to hit it off big. I'm going to start us off with, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the big game everybody's going to talk about going into and out of the Sony press conference, The Last of Us 2. What did you guys think about that 11-minute gameplay demo?
I was going to go first on this because I don't have a lot to say on this. I came to The Last of Us very late in the game, enjoyed the game, loved the game. The second one looks amazing. I just don't need to see the first 15 minutes of the game. That's just me personally. Am I going to buy it? Absolutely. Are they going to have The Last of Us 2 PS4 Pro limited edition that I'm going to buy? Absolutely.
Yeah, as far as me, I'm glad you mentioned that late to the game, Mike, Last of Us. Because of these two guys right here, they really pushed me for years, I would say, to play that game. And finally, when I got my PS4, played the remastered version of it, absolutely loved it. One of my favorite games ever. They hit the nail on the head. Just as close to perfection as you can get as far as video games are concerned, in my opinion. And Naughty Dog just did an amazing job. So, of course, I'm excited for this game. I thought that it looked amazing graphically, thematically. It looked very dark, serious. But it is The Last of Us. Those of you that have played that game, you understand what I'm saying. That world is a very dark world to be in. And I just thought that it was, it looked great. The gameplay looked very familiar. It looked like what we're used to from the original game. And I'm stoked for it. But I also agree with Mike. I would have preferred maybe a 5-minute demo as opposed to the 11-minute. I think it was actually the actual time, 11-minute demo they showcased.
I'm right there with you guys, and I've said it off the podcast too. I prefer to see a nice trailer, something like Tomb Raider did, something like another game me and Bo are going to drool over when we talk about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Give me like a 3-minute game trailer that I get to see gameplay along with some cinematic, something that kind of flows through. Let me see a little bit of everything. And the first time I started watching, I actually kind of skimmed through it and was like, all right, well, I'm hyped because it's The Last of Us. I rewatched it. I got super hyped over something small because... And you can tell there's two timelines going on here. There's one part where some guy walks up to Ellie in the beginning and he's like, yeah, your old man was hounding me hard today. I'm thinking, oh, great. Joel's not dead, right? Because that's all we heard about from that first trailer a year and a half ago. But I'm going to be real with you. I rewatched the entire gameplay section, and I didn't need to see that much because, I know it's going to play well. But what I did see was some very small details, and I know I shared this with you guys. There's one scene where Ellie runs up. She's got no bullets. She grabs a hostage. Somebody shoots the hostage, and there's this moment of shock where Ellie looks down like, oh, crap, they just shot the hostage. I thought that was great, and the way she scuttles through the dirt. I didn't need 11 minutes of it. It hyped me up more for the game because it kind of got me back into the world. But I would have preferred a different way to introduce it, if that makes sense to you guys.
She say something, dude?
Make it 1 week. Ellie! Hey! What took you so long? Oh, I'm here, aren't I?
Ina?
Jesse.
Hey, don't forget we leave at first light, so get some rest.
Yes, sir. You're such a dick. Come on. Why don't you start with me? Okay, I have a very serious question for you. How bad do I smell? Like a hot pile pile of garbage.
Oh.
Okay. Oh. How about that? Gross. You love it. Every guy in this room is staring at you right now. Maybe they're staring at you. Or not. Maybe they're jealous of you. I'm just a girl, not a threat. Oh, Ellie. I think they should be terrified.
So, all right, I'm gonna bring another big game that a lot of people want to hype.
Whoa. After The Last of Us 2, we have to have a 15-minute intervention. Intermission. And we got to get out the church, all right? We need to have a bamboo flute player come on board, and then we can go on to the next big game.
Exactly, because that is the way you sell all this presentation stuff. But this is the worst presentation. But let's talk about Death Stranding. A lot of people came into Death Stranding talking about, I can't wait to see some gameplay previews. I can't wait to see maybe some more cinematics, see what the heck this game looks like, what it's about. I'm going to jump on and say this, guys. You guys know I love the Metal Gear franchise. I will defend Metal Gear 1 through 4 story to the hills because I'm like, Hideo Kojima it's awesome. 5, bits and pieces are good. Some are bad, some are good. But I'm watching this trailer, and I'm like, all I'm watching is this dude running around with a backpack that keeps changing into a bigger backpack. A baby is giving me a thumbs up or smiling at me, something in some throat. Some lady's talking about something I don't understand. Oh, look, now I'm running in a new backpack in a new area. I mean, hey,
but every area getting swept away.
Yeah, like everything looked pretty, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I walked away less hyped for that game than I have been. I would say, as far as what's Rafe gonna do when that game drops, is Rafe is probably gonna look at it on the shelf, flip the box back over, and say, maybe when it's $20. Like, they just didn't show me anything. Right now, I'm guaranteeing you, in my mind, that game is going to be Hideo Kojima tripping on acid while doing 8 lines of coke, coming up with the craziest crap he can do, watching all the 80s psycho cop movies. They're just ridiculous, and writing a game. I'm going to tell you right now, that game is just going to be too weird. Like, they didn't sell me on it. I hate to say it, but they killed my hype going into it with what I watched. Twice. I watched it twice because the first time I fell asleep because, you can only watch a guy running with a backpack so many times.
Yeah, man. Wow. Between the backpacks and running around, like everywhere he went, he was getting swept away by the river or whatever water he was in, and I don't know, the part where he rips his toenail off, man, and climbing up the cliffs of the mountain. I mean, yeah, like you said, it looks really nice graphically. I like Norman Reedus. I like Hideo Kojima. I love Metal Gear, but. To me, I won't say I'm less hyped. I'll say, again, I'm kind of indifferent. I'm kind of the same as I was for the last 2 trailers. It's like, okay, cool. It looks weird and odd. I'm still willing at this point to be open to playing it. But I got to see more, man. Like, if I don't see more than just, the thing too about it is it wasn't just the fact that the guy was running around with a backpack. It was the fact that it was just this kind of barren wasteland and there was nothing around. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Now, granted, there was the one scene where he's in that, power plant or wherever he is. And I'm very intrigued to find out what those invisible monsters are and what all that entails. So there was some interesting stuff there for me, but again, I'm not 100% sold on it yet.
Well, let me ask you this question. You played Metal Gear 5. Mike, did you play Metal Gear 5 as well?
Yes, I did.
Did you ever, so this kind of goes to that barren wasteland, did you guys ever just go, hey, I'm going to go from mission to mission while driving the dog, or not driving the dog, but driving the car, riding the horse, or did you get on a helicopter and fly over there? Because that game world, as much money as he had to put into that, it was kind of barren, and maybe there were occasional outposts here or there, but there wasn't a whole lot. So I'm like you, Bo. I'm watching going, there's nothing in this world. Like, I don't want to call you up and be like, hey, Mike, what you doing? Oh, man, I've just ran around for 1 hour with a gigantic backpack on my back, and I haven't seen shit. Like, that ain't the game I want to play, man. Sorry.
Well, I'm curious too, because Aubrey was watching it with me, and we were trying to figure out, her interpretation was, is he going around collecting dead bodies, and that's what he puts in that backpack? Like, what is he collecting too? Like,
that makes it less weird right there.
What, the fact that he's collecting dead? Are you being sarcastic?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes it a lot less weird. He's just running around collecting dead bodies.
I'm personally 100%. I'm 100% sold on this game. I like weird outside of Johnny Depp, so I'm gonna get it.
Mike's gonna be calling us like, "Hey guys, I just ran around for 8 hours a day, seen absolutely nothing, and a baby winked at me. It was perfection."
Mike's gonna be calling his wife saying, "Hey, I just picked up Rafe's dead body. I got it in a book bag. Come on."
All right, so let's move on to a game that all three of us, I think, have been voxing about. I didn't know about this game going into it, or maybe we kind of heard something. Then we saw it, and it kind of blew all our minds. Was Ghost? There might be a full name. You can help.
Ghost of,
oh man, dude.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Different game.
Sucker Punch. It looked. Trailer comes on. I'm kind of like, it looks kind of whatever. By the 3 minutes into it, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of sold on this now.
Yeah,
How do you guys feel about that?
So for me, oh man, if you didn't fall in love with this game, you don't have a soul, in my opinion. I think the game looks amazing. It looks like it plays great. The color palette was amazing. There's no questions asked that I'm getting this game. If there's only 3 games that I can get out of E3, this is one of them. Yeah,
I'm definitely getting this one, man. This is a really cool looking game, something I didn't know anything about as well either going into the show, and it just really grabbed me when I was watching it. And, like you said, Rafe, it just, as the story was progressing and everything, oh man, what's going to happen? What is it? What's the reasoning behind it? And just graphically, like you said, Mike, the color palette with those red leaves, and then just in the distance when they're doing that fight, it looks like it's going to be really, really good. And Sucker Punch, for those of you that didn't know, did Infamous. And I am wondering, is this more of a linear game or is it an open world game, like more of what they're known for?
To me, it kind of looked open world. When he was out there. Speaking of which, that flower scene when they were fighting, it immediately brought me back to Metal Gear. Which Metal Gear was that? 3?
Yeah.
Where they're fighting at the end. I was just like, holy. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, obviously, it still looked amazing.
Yeah, so that might be right there the biggest surprise of E3 between the three of us.
Yeah, I really don't know if I think I may have heard about it, but I didn't really know about it until I watched it. And like I said, I mean, there was one scene, he does it several times actually. When he kills somebody, he flicks the blood off and then he wipes it before he puts it away. And I was like, that's a cool touch. That is a really, really cool touch. Mm-hmm. And those little animations always sell me. Like I said, Ellie doing her thing in The Last of Us 2, those little animations just kind of, it just kind of sucked me in. Like, that's just extra care taken to the game world.
What I think is funny is that's now 2 games that were announced at E3 that we're all 3 excited for. The Sekiro game on the Xbox that was from Software, and then now this Ghost. I just think it's kind of cool that setting in Japan is, at least for us, has been big this E3.
Yes, and I was going to say, I mean, my jaw only dropped a few times during E3, and this was one of those times. This is when I saw this game. I was just like, I got to have this game.
Samurai. You are a warrior. I can see that. You trained your whole life for this. And you have won battles that lesser men have called unwinnable, yes? But while you were sharpening your sword, do you know how I prepared for today? I learned. I know your language, your traditions, your beliefs, which villages to tame and which to burn.
So let me throw this out there, Mike. I think I kind of know where you felt going into E3, but did anything change with the Spider-Man 8-minute gameplay trailer that they showed?
I'm glad you said that because I kind of given up on superhero games. I just think that they're typically poorly made. They're a cash grab, and the few that were good just kind of gotten like fallen to the wasteland. Spider-Man, the old ones being one of those games, and then the Ultimate Alliance games. So going into this E3, I had very little interest in this Spider-Man. The first, I would say, 30 to 45 seconds of it, I was like really into it. I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to get this game. But when I got to about minute 8, I was just like, you know what? I don't know that I need this game any longer. I think they showed too much of it. Number one. Number two, it looks a little too closed in for me. It looks like you're on an island, and it was just like, you're in this prison where he had all these people, and it's just like boss. And so by the end of it, I kind of lost interest in it. I'm 50-50 on this. My opinion of what's going to happen with me is I'm going to buy this game on day one, and I'm probably never going to play it.
Yeah. Now, we'll say, I just want to clarify, that was one sequence. It's an open world game with a huge open world New York City where you can also do missions as Peter Parker. Actually, some missions you play as Mary Jane Watson. There's just a huge RPG-esque aspect to it once you're in New York City. And there's just a lot more going on there. I think that was just the one sequence on that island. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely tight corridor type gameplay going on there. But I mean, if you didn't know that, I'm just trying to, maybe that'll make it a little bit more appealing to you. If like, hell yeah, hey, open world New York.
Yeah, it definitely does make it a little bit more appealing. I just didn't get that from E3, number one. And number two, it's one of those things, man, like after it installs and downloads, I'm like, let me check it out. And, 10 minutes into it, I'm like, yo, this game is the sickest. But we'll see.
What about you, Bo? How did you feel?
Is that the one game that comes out this year?
It pretty much is, yeah.
Okay.
If I'm looking at the big games that I've got wrote down from Sony, and that might be the big game out of both the big conferences, other than Tomb Raider.
I'll be 100% honest with you. I started watching it. I got about 2 minutes into it, and I walked away. I was watching live the press conference, so I walked away. I walked into the kitchen. I got me something to eat and drink. I came back, and for the majority of the gameplay, I was talking to Aubrey. I kind of looked at it here or there, but it's like I told you guys before, E3, I don't really feel that I need to see any more on the game, and I don't want to see too much. The game's coming out in 3 months, so I don't want to feel like I've already played it. You know what I'm saying? I've read the Game Informer cover story, got lots of great info out of it, and I feel like I'm good. I'm at that point where I have enough information, you know what I'm saying, on that one title where I don't need any more, really. So I was kind of shocked also with how close the release date was. They were spending as much focus on that game at this year's E3, but specifically to this year's E3, I didn't really focus too much on it. I didn't really, maybe half of it I watched.
I feel like they did it, Spider-Man being one of their showcases, because Infinity War just came out, so people are kind of hyped. This is the biggest superhero game coming out anytime soon. That's kind of why I think they focused a lot, and it's exclusive. You know what I'm saying? So those three things are like, let's get it. Personally, I watched it today. I'm kind of like Mike. I was like, I don't know. Maybe that was just a bad scene to show, because there is another video out there. It's 8 minutes of just gameplay swinging through the city, the developers talking about it, and that to me would have been better had they just kind of had the developer talking, but just, hey, here's 2 minutes of swinging and interacting. And again, a 2 to 3 minute trailer, I think would have went a lot further. Did it make me less hyped for the game, like Death Stranding? No, it didn't do that, but it made me go, that was probably not the best way you do that. Like, you could have done this a better way, because you didn't show me anything new. You showed me the same fighting and the same stuff that, the developers already kind of released in gameplay videos in the last, 6 months. So I thought it was kind of a poor choice, personally.
The raft is secure, but I can't reach them over radio. Their comms must be down. What's your status? Already here.
Yuri? I thought you said it was secure.
It was. Let's go. Maybe it's not as bad as it looks.
Love the optimism. But in my experience, when it looks bad, it's usually worse. Look out!
All right. So another game, another remake that's coming out. And Bo, I know this has got your panties in a twist here. Resident Evil 2 remake. Tell us about it, man.
Oh man, they are definitely in a twist over that. I got to tell you, I thought it was really cool the way they set up the trailer from the perspective of a rat, because you really don't have any idea of what's going on. Like, okay, what is this? And then as soon as you see that zombie, oh yes, no way, what? Please! And as soon as they started with the music, the setting, the visuals of the RPD, the city. I mean, oh my God, man. So many memories started coming back from when I played through that game, almost 20 years ago. And it's my favorite Resident Evil, one of my favorite games ever. Leon's my favorite character. I've been waiting for this for years. There was a coworker of mine, how many years ago was that? Maybe 3 or 4 years ago. At this point, huge Resident Evil fan. We were talking about it back then and how much we wanted it then. And to now see it with the over-the-shoulder perspective from it was started with Resident Evil 4, and to have the graphics looked amazing. And I mean, to be honest with you, that's probably the most hyped I am for a game out of that press conference. And that may sound crazy because it's a remake of a game that I've already played multiple times 20 years ago, but it's just, I don't know, it hits all the right chords for me. Nostalgia and just love of the series. And I don't know, man, I am so excited for it. And I think it looks like they just did a phenomenal job updating that game to current gen. And I cannot wait until January to get my hands on it.
Well, I can tell you this. Nostalgia is a funny thing. You guys know I still play some PS2 games. I have to mentally prepare myself like you're going back a long way when you play this so that I don't get in there going, this is not the game I remember. Because, you kind of remember it in today's technology. So I can say when they remake a game from the ground up like this, like they did with the first remake, which I know Mike and I both have, that game's pretty phenomenal with the little bit that I've played here and there. So I'm like you. Resident Evil 2 was the first one that really pushed me into the series. I'm pretty stoked for it, too. Just because of when it comes out, I can't swear I'll buy it day one. I'll throw that out there. Listeners are probably like, damn, this guy don't buy nothing. I definitely think it's going to look good. I think it's going to play well. I can't wait to get my hands on it either.
So I mentioned earlier that I like weird things. So I was actually more excited for this game when I thought it was a game about a rat. I was like, oh, man, this is going to be the spiritual successor to Mr. Mosquito. This looks awesome. And then when I actually found out it was Resident Evil 2, I was let down a little bit, but like it was Gears Pop. But when I realized, obviously, I'm excited for it. I love Resident Evil, and Resident Evil 2 is actually the game that got me into Resident Evil. And if I'm not mistaken, I actually borrowed this game from Bo way back in the PlayStation era, and I played it multiple times until I bought it myself. And it would be awesome to have it. It looks amazing. I just don't know that I would actually ever play it when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
You're all going to die down here. You're all going to die down here.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this question. I know there might have been a few other games that released. Was there any other big games that, like there was the game Control or a few other ones? Was there any that really sucked you in and said, oh, I gotta get this, or I gotta play this?
I want to tell you, I just want to say something about Control real quick. And I'm kind of confused because Remedy is the developer on that game. They did Quantum Break. The whole time I'm sitting there watching that game, I'm like, this is Quantum Break. What is this? And then at the end of it, when they said it was Control or Remedy, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, oh, man, I don't know. I just think it's kind of messed up. But I'm still kind of intrigued by it, if that makes sense.
I am too. I kind of feel like they're taking Quantum Break for what it was and the feedback they got from it, and they're saying, oh, we're just going to re-release it on PlayStation with a female protagonist and, use that same engine, and we think it'll do better here. That was kind of my take. So I'm definitely interested. Obviously, I didn't get to play Quantum Break. The gameplay stuff they showed was actually really cool. Now, the stories part where the gun's shifting and all that stuff, I'm like, oh, what the hell is going on here? But then when I got to the gameplay, I was like, oh, no, that looks enticing. I could do that.
They dropped the live action aspect of Quantum Break as well.
You actually brought up PlayStation. It's actually a multi-platform game. I don't know if you know that or not, because this is obviously something they didn't talk about. It is going to be on the Xbox, which makes it even weirder. The fact that, hey, we're going to have Quantum Break again. The only thing that I can think of, though, man, is did they just do this because they had to remake Quantum Break, and they're like, oh man, we got this game Control that's almost done. We'll just call it Quantum Break, and then when we go to release Control, we'll just put a new character in as the lead.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, it doesn't look like it's different enough to really change anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't play Quantum Break, but when it showed the gameplay, I was like, that looks like the gameplay videos I've seen in Quantum Break. Throwing stuff, the way the time or the telekinesis worked. Like, that was my thoughts.
And I don't want to get anybody. I don't want anybody to get me wrong. I'm definitely all in for that game. I loved Quantum Break. It's just very.
Oh, yeah, Quantum Break was a lot of fun, man.
Well, if there's no other games, let's kind of wrap it up. Let's get our scores for Sony. We did our scores for Microsoft. To recap, Mike, you had a 9, if I'm not mistaken. Bo, you had a 9. I gave it an 8.5. So let's break down Sony. Let's go with Mike. What'd you get for Sony?
So, man, Sony, it's very weird. If we're going to rate the conference, it was odd. It was very bizarre. Like, hey, we're going to have these different settings. We're going to have intermissions. We're going to play 15 minutes of the game, but we're only going to show 10 games. It's very bizarre. But what they did show, I'm actually very excited for. I mean, The Last of Us, Ghost, Death Stranding, Control. I mean, all those games I'm going to get. But if I'm going to be honest with you, the conference was weird. They didn't show a lot. They didn't talk a lot. Nothing coming out this year. So for me, it's probably more of a 7, maybe a 7.5 for me.
All right, Bo, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking on some of the things that Mike said, I just want to say that I personally thought that their attempt at, hey, less is more. I agree that I feel like I would have rather had more other, more reveals or trailers for other things as opposed to 10 minutes of Spider-Man and 10 minutes of Last of Us 2. I appreciate the time and everything, but they still have a lot of cool stuff. I mean, Ghost was a real big surprise for me that I can't wait for. And Last of Us 2 obviously goes without saying, Death Stranding, Spider-Man. So, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that came out of the conference. But as far as the presentation of the conference itself, the lack of any kind of feeling of interactivity with the audience, as far as me, I feel like there's that connection there when you have somebody up there. I don't need somebody the whole time talking because obviously I want to see the game content, but just to have that, back and forth every now and then is nice. I would have given them an 8.5, but I dropped them down to an 8. I took that half a point off just because of the format of their conference. I didn't think that it flowed real well doing it the way that they did it because I didn't expect that intermission. Mike mentioned that earlier when I'm sitting there watching it live and all of a sudden it cuts out to a booth and says, all right, now we're going to a brief intermission while the audience changes locations. And I'm like, huh? What? And then it was just some people talking about the games. And I mean, okay, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you just took up 15 minutes of your press conference at E3 to switch venues. And I get it. You have your own PlayStation experience in September every year that maybe you're holding out for. But at the same time, this is like the big dog every year, the big show. So bottom line is 8 is what I give Sony this year.
Okay, guys, if I'm going to rate Sony, the first thing you got to look at the good and the bad. The good, almost every game they presented was something that I was like, okay, I'm extremely interested in this. The only game that I've talked about that I wasn't as hyped coming out of the event as I was going in was Death Stranding. But at the same time, ironically enough, the way they did their trailer or gameplay video was actually the way I wish the other games had, where it was a mix of story and gameplay. But, the lack of any new features being shown off, even the updates, here's something that we're going to do in the future, whether it be the very requested version of changing your PSN name that they just keep toying with but never happening. I thought maybe that would be announced, or the fact that a lot of the games, just like Microsoft, are not releasing this year or don't even have a release window. Spider-Man is the only one that they said that's coming out this year. Now, I mean, some of the games like Resident Evil 2 will be January, so you can kind of put that in there, but these big games they're showing off we're not going to see them potentially for a little while. So overall, I got to give the score a 7. Again, the games they showed off, I thought was really interesting. They picked the right games. If they were only going to show a few games, they definitely picked the right games to show off. I just wasn't a big fan of the presentation on, one, how they did the event, and then 2, how they showed off most of the games, just these big 10-minute gameplay sections.
So I just want to put out there, guys, it may seem that we came across somewhat harsh on Sony, and that's not the case at all, or not the intention, I should say. We all three had a lot of great things that we took from the Sony press conference. I mean, as we talked about, Last of Us 2 obviously looked phenomenal, and we can't talk enough about Ghost and how excited we are for that new IP and to see where that goes. I mean, I personally, Resident Evil 2 for me, just the reveal of that was enough to, make me do cartwheels naked in the street, man. That's how excited I was for that. Bottom line is, we don't want the wrong impression to be had. We love all three major developers and console developers, and Sony had great stuff that they showed off. It just, the way that they executed it, and I don't want to seem as if we're not, quality over quantity, but at the same time, some of the stuff we'd already seen before. And so just bottom line is, when you look at all of it together, it just was not as on par this year with Microsoft. So that's all. Just wanted some clarification for our listeners.
All right, guys. We've just kind of wrapped up Sony. We went through it. We hit it. We grilled them on some things, and we praised them on some other things. Stay tuned for the next episode of Day 2 Update.
Peace. Until then, your Day 2 update will continue to load. So I got a story for you guys. I was at work, and me and some of my coworkers were talking about E3, and, oh man, what'd you like? What'd you see? What'd you think of some of the games and the trailers? And my one coworker, he came to me, and we were talking about a few games, and he comes over to me. He's like, Don, all I want you to do is look at the screen. I said, okay. So he pulls his phone out, and he puts it right in front of me, and it's Ghost on his phone. And he's like, look at that, Don. Just look at that. Look at the breeze blowing. Feel the breeze. Feel the breeze. Oh, now we're coming up on the hill. Look at the sun. Can you feel the warmth? Just feel the warmth, Don. Just feel it. Just embrace it. Just take it. Look at how amazing that is. Can't you don't you just want to be there? Don't you feel like you're there? And it's like, yeah, man, it is an amazingly beautiful game. And you're right. That sunset, those leaves, that grass, that field looks amazing. So I thought that was pretty cool. That, we're really all three were that stoked about a game that we really knew nothing about before E3. So I thought that was really cool. Pretty cool story.